Hey ladies and gentlemen, so before we get into PPE, personal protective equipment, I want to explain to y'all just a couple little nuanced things that might add to your thought process just a little bit. So some of y'all might have heard of the hierarchy of controls, but if you hadn't, listen up. So we as safety people have different ways we go about mitigating hazards. The most effective means are depicted here at the top of this chart. The least are at the bottom. Now, without looking, can anybody tell me what the most effective means of mitigating a hazard is? I'll wait. Did somebody say PPE? A lot of y'all said PPE, didn't you? Well, I hate to tell you this, but you're actually wrong. But nearly everybody thinks that, so don't feel bad if you did. Let me explain. So if you'll look here real close, you'll see that elimination is the most effective means of mitigating the hazard. Now, let me explain elimination. Let's say you have a hazard. You take that hazard and you completely eliminate it. You get rid of it. Well, then you don't even have to worry about it no more. That is the best option. But let's continue. So substitution is our second best option. Substitution means that we have to take that job process apart, and we may find a step or a method that we can swap out for an alternative means, and that can mitigate the hazard. That's our second best option. The hazard hadn't quite been eliminated, but we have substituted around for it. Our third best option is engineering controls. Now, a lot of y'all are probably going to jump up and go, hey, I've always heard that's the best one. Well, oftentimes a lot of instructors and a lot of classes will lump all three of these together. Are they right? Are they wrong? That's a debate for another class. But engineering controls is a way we can engineer out the hazard. Again, it completely gets rid of the hazard, so we don't have to worry about it. That's preferred. However, if we can't do that, we have to resort to administrative controls. Administrative controls means that we implement a policy, procedure, or a rule that is going to make sure that the people don't engage with the hazard. The hazard still exists, but the folks aren't quite engaging with it. However, you will notice at the very bottom, our least effective means is personal protective equipment, also called PPE. Now, notice that is the least effective means. Again, normally everybody thinks it's the most. Here is why it is not the most effective means. Here's, as a matter of fact, why it is the least effective means. If I have to put on some safety glasses, something like this, whatever that object or that shrapnel or whatever threat to my eyes is, it has not been eliminated, substituted, engineered out, and we hadn't come up with a rule that keeps me away from that hazard. That hazard is still wild and in the open in its natural habitat. So the only thing between that hazard, whatever it is flying in the air, and my eyes, is this PPE. Now, something about PPE that makes it even weaker than these other control methods would be the fact that it can fail, it can break. I'm not going to break these because these are my expensive glasses. Or I can just not put them on right? I can have them down here. Y'all probably seen some tradespeople doing that before, yeah? And it could be a bad fit. There's a lot of breaking points in the strategy of addressing your hazard with PPE. So the reason I bring up all this is not to say that I don't like PPE. Of course, I like these other methods better. But if you are in a situation where they are implementing a PPE policy, that means they could not figure out how to eliminate, substitute, engineer out, or admin out that hazard. That means they tried all their best methods and couldn't properly address it, which means this PPE is the only thing between you and that hazard. So please, don't do it for me, do it for yourself. Don't just wear your PPE, inspect it before every use, make sure it's well took care of, and wear it. Thank you all very much.